Welcome to the Cine Detective channel. We're going to talk about a really interesting drama today, which centers on an intense tale of love, desire, and obsession, where the protagonists get swept up in a storm of emotions that threatens their lives and their futures. The protagonist of the narrative is Julie, a 34-year-old psychology professor with both a happy and sad life. Meanwhile, a young man named Antonio sees no other choice but to commit robbery after losing everything he had worked so hard to accumulate, including his car and all of the money he had earned from the guarantee fund and getting fired. He begins with a small-time theft and concludes with a large-scale robbery at a bar. He encounters Julia while he's running. Julia is taken hostage by Antonio when he enters her home brandishing a gun. Disillusioned, Antonio rapes Julia, and since she is being held at gunpoint and unable to resist, she complies with all of his requests. After a combination of seduction and rape, the two have a turbulent romance during which she voluntarily accepts him into a close relationship. They are unsure about how to handle this relationship between hate, fear, and love, though. He eventually treated her as if she were his wife or lover, and at some point they got into a fight with predictable outcomes. She returned to her normal life 3 days after he left her home, but she can never forget their passionate exchanges. A few days later, Antonio began to send Julia bouquets along with notes. As she was attempting to move on from the traumatic events of the previous 3 days, receiving flowers broke her sense of tranquility. After visiting her home out of an overwhelming desire to meet Julia, Antonio is abruptly arrested by police in front of her. However, Antonio and the other criminals managed to get out of police custody. Julia was growing more terrified of this circumstance as she continued to receive bounce notes while teaching the class. Antonio starts to send Julie more flowers over time, which gets Julia and the police into more trouble. In addition to Julia remembering their happy times together and realizing she loves him, the police are also attempting to apprehend Antonia. Then, Julia makes it to Antonio's hiding spot while dodging the cops' gaze. He does not accept Julia because Antonia has both love and distrust, but Antonio accepts her, believing her confession. Immediately the police arrive there. Antonio, knowing this, he takes her hostage once more. He also had a deep romantic connection with her, but he is devastated to learn that she had cheated on him. Concurrently, the authorities had encircled their residence and were requesting Julia's release and compliance. Antonio suggested certain conditions because he was aware of the consequences if the police arrested him. But things turned out differently than Antonio had anticipated.
After that, a lot of developments happen in that location. You must see the movie if you're truly interested in finding out if the climax has a happy or tragic ending. It is a Brazilian film directed by José Antonio Garcia in 2001. And the title of the film is My Life in Your Hands. The movie is essentially about crazy, illogical, and love that arises out of the other person's most basic needs. The main highlights of the technically mediocre movie are the performances by lead actors Maria Zilda and Caco Siacler. However, the film has many instances of bad screenwriting, and the narrative's lack of coherence causes the two protagonists to become stuck in unachievable clichés. This is all about the movie review. If you like our video, please do like, share and subscribe.